A reading from our Places to Know book, page 39, Where They Run a Country. Ivan the Terrible, Simon Bolivar, Theodore Roosevelt. The club you may belong to has rules or laws, so do governments, but the people who run governments don't meet in a basement or a clubhouse the way your club might. Instead, they meet in special places in cities called capitals. Some government leaders meet in buildings on hills, some meet in buildings on an island, and the leaders of at least one government meet in a museum. On the following pages, you will visit places where governments are run in different parts of the world. Naming the White House. Picture of the White House where the President of the United States of America lives. The United States Capitol is where the members of Congress meet. George Washington chose the place where the house of the President of the United States was built in Washington, D.C. From time to time, this famous house has been repaired and rebuilt. Even though this has changed its appearance, the outside of the house has always been painted white. That's why it was known as the White House long before the name became official. For many years it was called the President's House and even the President's Palace. After the Civil War, it became known as the Executive Mansion. Finally, in 1901, when Theodore Roosevelt was president, the official name was changed to the White House. The president and his family live in the White House. There are also offices for the president and many of the people who work with him. The lawmakers in Congress who help the president run the government work in another building called the United States Capitol. Up the hill. Senators meet in the Senate chamber of the Parliament building in Ottawa. Canadian Guardsmen march in front of the Peace Tower in Ottawa. Onomatopoeia. Up the hill. If the flag flies during the day, it means that they're meeting. But if a red light shines at the top of the flagpole at night, it means they've gone home. Who are they? They are the lawmakers of Canada. One group of lawmakers are members of the House of Commons. They are called commoners. The other group of lawmakers are members of the Senate. They are called senators. The commoners and senators meet in the Parliament buildings on Parliament Hill in the city of Ottawa. One of the Parliament buildings has a tall tower that's known as the Peace Tower. That's where the flag flies and the light shines. The Peace Tower also has a big clock and many bells. The smallest bell weighs about as much as a newborn baby, and the largest weighs more than 3 newborn whales. Sometimes songs are played on the bells, but no matter how many songs are played, the last two are always "O Canada" and "God Save the Queen." A palace for lawmakers. There is a palace where you could have a lot of fun playing. It has 100 stairways to climb, passageways to run through, and a tall clock tower to hide in. But it's not a palace for playing. It's the new Palace of Westminster in London, England, and it's a palace for lawmaking. Not many people know that its real name is the New Palace of Westminster because almost everyone knows it has the Houses of Parliament. The English lawmakers who meet there are called members of the Parliament. One of the best known parts of the Houses of Parliament is Big Ben. Big Ben is the name of a famous bell that rings with a deep bong. It's inside a huge clock tower, and the clock tower itself is so big that a minute hand is as long as the diving board. Is as long as a diving board. At night, if you see a light on the clock tower, you know that the members of Parliament are meeting. The Houses of Parliament in London, England are beside the River Thames. Big Ben is in the tower with the clock. Government and a museum. This is the Kremlin in Moscow, Russia. The red star is on top of the Kremlin Tower, and the red flag is on top of the Grand Palace. You might expect to find barracks for soldiers, barracks. You might expect to find barracks for soldiers behind the walls of a fortress. But would you also expect to find palaces and cathedrals and even some government buildings there too? Such buildings stand behind the walls of one fortress, the Kremlin in Moscow, the capital of Russia. Kremlin comes from a Russian word that means fortress. You can't visit the government building in the Kremlin because they're secret, but you can visit such places as the Armory Palace and see many things that once belonged to the Tsars. Tsars were the emperors of Russia long ago. In the armory, you can see jeweled Easter eggs, golden helmets, guns and armor, jeweled sabers, and even the throne of the Tsar, named Ivan the Terrible. The Princess of Andorra. Andorra's capital lies in a beautiful mountain valley. The lawmakers of Andorra meet in the House of the Valleys. Once upon a time, a Spanish nobleman decided to give his country away. The tiny country he ruled was Andorra, high up in the Pyrenees Mountains between Spain and France. The nobleman gave his country to a Spanish bishop, so for a couple hundred years, Spanish bishops ruled Andorra. But one day, the ruling bishop decided he couldn't defend the tiny country. He asked the Spanish nobleman to help. Then, members of the Spanish nobleman's family married into a noble French family. Before long, one of the French noblemen decided he wanted to rule Andorra. The Spanish bishop disagreed. How did they settle the matter? They both became princes of Andorra and ruled the tiny country together, but they let the people elect a general council to make some local laws, and that's the way it's been ever since. The general council meets in the House of the Valleys in Andorra, the capital city. Today, the princes of Andorra are the president of France and the bishop of Lerida, Spain. According to custom, one year the people of Andorra gave the French president a gift of about $200. The next year they gave the Spanish bishop about $8. But every year the bishop also gets 6 hams, 12 rounds of cheese, 12 capons, and 12 partridges. He gives the food to the needy people in Spain. Behind the lion in this picture is the old Parliament building in Stockholm, Sweden. Yes, that's probably where they got that idea from. It does look just like it. Stockholm, the capital of Sweden, is built on many islands that are connected by bridges. Government on an island. You can cross a lot of bridges in Stockholm, Sweden, so many that some people call Stockholm the city of bridges. Stockholm needs bridges because it's built on a dozen islands along the coast of Sweden. The lawmakers of Sweden used one of the bridges to get to work on one of the islands. These lawmakers are called Riksdag. They're called Riksdag, and their meeting place is called the Riksdagshuset. If the lawmakers have to go to the bank, they don't have to go very far. The oldest government-owned bank in the world, the Riksbank, stands near the Riksdagshuset. Australia's meeting place. Less than 100 years ago, Australia was made up of 6 separate colonies. These colonies were ruled by the British. Then, in 1901, the colonies united from the Commonwealth of Australia. I have to go refill my water. Today, Australia is an independent country, but it is also a member of the Commonwealth of Nations. This is a group of countries that were once under British rule. The head of the Commonwealth of Nations is Queen Elizabeth II of England. This also makes her Queen of Australia, but the Queen doesn't rule the Australians. They vote for their own lawmakers, who meet in Parliament House in Canberra, the capital city. The name Canberra comes from the Aboriginal word Canberry, which means meeting place. When it was chosen as the capital, this beautiful meeting place had few trees. As part of an experiment, oaks, elms, beeches, birches, cottonwoods, firs, and cypresses were brought in from other parts of the world. But the people who also wanted native Australian trees One kind they planted was the gum tree, which is their name for the eucalyptus. They also put in many acai, known as wattles in Australia. The wattle and gum tree are especially important because they are among Australia's unofficial emblems. In fact, flowering branches of wattle from the background of Australia's coat of arms. In all, more than 1.5 million trees and shrubs were planted to make Australia's capital more beautiful. The rulers of Japan. And we'll finish on this page for now. The National Diet Building in Tokyo is where the Parliament of Japan meets. National Diet Building. A stone bridge over a moat leads to the Imperial Palace. For more than 2,000 years, Japan was ruled by emperors or by people who ruled for the emperor. During all this time, the Japanese honored their emperor as a god. According to legend, the emperors were related to the sun goddess, Amaterasu. But after World War II, Emperor Hirohito said this belief was false. Then the people voted for leaders to run their country. The Japanese still honor the emperor, but he has no power. He is the symbol of the country and the people. The emperor and his family live in the Imperial Palace in Tokyo, the capital of Japan. Ordinary people can visit the palace only twice a year, the day after New Year, and on the birthday of the emperor. The palace is surrounded by a moat, a wide water-filled ditch. To get to the palace, you must cross a heavy stone bridge over the moat. Sometimes you see white swans swimming in the moat. Close to the grounds of the Imperial Palace is the National Diet Building. Diet means parliament. The people who are elected to the Diet make the laws for Japan. They also choose the Prime Minister, who is now the ruler of Japan.